Canada was added to the G7 group of industrialized countries in 1976. In 1997, Russia joined, and this led to the group becoming the G8 Intergovernmental Political Forum from 1997 to 2014. In 2014, Russia was expelled after the annexation of Crimea. While South Africa was not a member of the G8, former presidents received constant invitations from the G8 hosts, as well as during former South African President Thabo Mbeki's tenure. It then became a tradition for a sitting South African president to get an invitation from the G8. Former President Jacob Zuma attended the meeting in 2009. Later, no invitation was extended to South Africa. The group revived this tradition by inviting President Cyril Ramaphosa to attend the G7 in 2018.
We've said to the G7 countries that they need to live up to the commitments that they made in Paris, that they need to create a fund which the developing countries can utilize to transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
He was also invited to this month's gathering. As the current president of the G20, President Ramaphosa will attend the G7 Leaders Summit in Canada this weekend. He is expected to brief the leaders of the powerful group on state of preparations for the G20 meeting. This is an overlap between G7 and G20, as members of the G7 are also members of G20.
Is there a plan to meet with President Trump? At this stage, both teams in the presidency and DECO are working on a schedule for bilateral meetings. And so it's still early to say which meetings the president will have and will not be able to have in that regard. As we get closer to the G7 summit, hopefully we'll be able to share the president's schedule with respect to bilateral meetings. Suffice to say, the meeting at the White House is quite recent and it was quite comprehensive. I'll imagine there's no real pressure for the president to push for that meeting, because that's a recent meeting. What will be important will be for President Ramaphosa to give himself time to meet other G7 leaders and sort of align the G7 with our G20 theme during the course of South Africa's presidency of the G20.
The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, is also expected to attend the G7 meeting in Canada.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is packing his bags and heading to Canada. But no, it's not for maple syrup or a quick ski in Whistler. This weekend, he'll be rubbing shoulders with the world's power players at the prestigious G7 Leaders Summit. And yes, even though South Africa isn't a G7 member, Ramaphosa got the exclusive VIP invite. You know it's serious when your president gets called up to the big table. So, what's on the agenda? While the other world leaders will be debating global economies, climate change, and who wore the best tailored suit, President Ramaphosa will have a very specific mission: show the world that South Africa is ready, more than ready, to host the G20 summit later this year. Now let's pause for a second. G7 and G20, what's the difference? Think of G7 as the old school money club, rich, powerful, mostly Western countries. G20, on the other hand, is a bit more inclusive, bringing in emerging economies like ours. So when Ramaphosa steps into that room in Canada, he's not just representing South Africa, he's representing the entire global South, and showing the world we've got the chops to lead. Sources say he'll be presenting updates on South Africa's state of readiness. The venues are secured, the logistics are in motion, and the security teams are on high alert. Because let's face it, when the world's top leaders gather, even the Wi-Fi has to be presidential grade. But here's where it gets real. South Africa is facing some major expectations. Hosting the G20 isn't just about rolling out red carpets and waving flags. It's a chance to shape the global agenda, from energy transition to digital inclusion, and Ramaphosa knows the spotlight will be intense. This isn't just a PR moment, it's a test of leadership, organization, and diplomacy. And while back home we're dealing with load shedding and a few potholes too many, this trip to Canada could give South Africa a moment to shine on the global stage. It's not every day you get to say, hey, we're hosting the world's most powerful economies, and we've got it under control. So as the president heads off to Canada, the message is clear. South Africa isn't just attending the global conversation, we're helping lead it. And if all goes well, by the time the G20 Summit hits our shores, the whole world will know, we came to play.